parties, of course, meeting for the first time in court today. It was about a 90-minute hearing.
I've never seen it before in my 30-plus year career in Hollywood.
I defend Justin Baldoni in this lawsuit with Blake Lively because I think she's horrible and she's made up this whole thing because she tried to steal his movie.
Justin Baldoni just scored a major legal victory against Blake Lively, and it's sending shockwaves through Hollywood. The latest courtroom hearing only lasted 90 minutes, but that was more than enough time for Baldoni to completely overpower Lively's legal team, leaving them scrambling for damage control. This battle has been brewing for months, and now it's exploding into the public eye in one of the most intense celebrity legal fights in recent memory. Blake came in swinging, accusing Baldoni of serious misconduct in a shocking $250 million lawsuit. But Justin wasn't about to roll over. Instead, he fired back even harder, slapping her with a $400 million counter lawsuit that accused her of extortion and defamation. And now, after months of heated exchanges, things have finally reached the courtroom. And based on what just happened, Blake's team should be very, very worried. The moment the hearing started, it became crystal clear that Justin Baldoni and his legal team had no intention of playing defense. They came in with guns blazing, ready to annihilate Blake Lively's case. His lawyer, Brian Fredman, didn't waste a second before tearing into Blake's legal team, launching a brutally aggressive assault that left them visibly shaken. It wasn't just his words, it was the commanding presence he brought into the courtroom. Every argument Blake's lawyers tried to make, Fredman dismantled it on the spot. Every attempt to slow him down, he steamrolled right over them. And honestly, it's not hard to see why they were terrified. This is the same guy who publicly vowed to sue Blake into oblivion. Fredman is notorious for his ruthless tactics, and if his performance in court was any indication, he fully intends to follow through on that promise. He wasn't just here to defend Baldoni, he was here to obliterate the opposition completely, and that's exactly what he did. Blake's legal team was in full-blown panic mode. They knew that if Fredman kept this up, there would be no coming back from it. So, in a desperate attempt to slow him down, they pleaded with the judge to issue a gag order, hoping to silence him entirely. Their argument? Fredman's constant media presence was making it impossible for them to keep up. Every time they prepared a rebuttal, he was already 10 steps ahead, dropping new revelations that sent them scrambling to recover. But the judge wasn't having any of it. With a swift and decisive ruling, he denied their request without hesitation, making it clear that if Blake's team had the right to speak to the media, then so did Baldoni's team. There would be no special treatment, no one-sided narrative control, and definitely no silencing Fredman. If they wanted to fight this battle in the public eye, then they would have to deal with the consequences. And just like that, Blake's team lost again. But this wasn't just a small loss, this was a massive, game-changing blow to Blake's entire legal strategy. Her team had spent months carefully crafting a public narrative, painting her as the wrong party, the victim, while Baldoni was painted as the villain in this legal drama. The press had run with it, social media had eaten it up, and for a while it looked like Blake had successfully shaped public opinion in her favor. But now, that tactic was backfiring spectacularly. By trying to silence Fredman, all they did was highlight their own hypocrisy. After all, they had been freely speaking to the media for months, controlling the narrative at every turn. But the moment Baldoni fought back with the same exact strategy, they suddenly wanted the rules changed. And the judge wasn't about to let that happen. Now, instead of controlling the media against Baldoni, they had unintentionally given him even more power. And Brian Fredman, he wasn't about to let that advantage go to waste. If Blake's team thought losing the gag order battle was the end of their problems, they were dead wrong. Because Brian Fredman wasn't just dominating them in the courtroom, he was completely dismantling them in the court of public opinion too. At first, Blake's legal team was laser-focused on shutting Fredman down inside the courtroom, thinking that if they could control the proceedings, they could still shape the public narrative in their favor. But they underestimated just how ruthless and strategic Fredman could be. He wasn't just fighting for legal victories, he was turning the entire world against Blake in the process. That's when they made a shocking discovery. Justin Baldoni had launched an entire website dedicated to the case, an explosive move that completely blindsided Blake's team. This wasn't some low-effort PR stunt, this was a fully fleshed-out platform designed to publicly expose every piece of evidence he had against her. The website wasn't just a collection of statements, it was a weapon. It included leaked legal documents that backed up Baldoni's claims, video footage that could potentially contradict Blake's accusations, and personal messages that painted a very different picture of their dispute. Blake's lawyers were furious. They immediately argued that this was unfair and unethical, claiming that Baldoni was using the internet to poison public opinion against her before the trial even started. They insisted that this was an inappropriate attempt to manipulate the jury pool before the case had even gone to trial. But Fredman? he didn't back down for a second. He hit back even harder, reminding the court that Blake herself was the one who started this media circus in the first place. She wasn't some innocent party being unfairly targeted. She had been the first to take this battle to the press. Fredman laid out the facts. Blake had gone straight to the New York Times, feeding them the story before Baldoni even knew what was happening. She gave him only 12 hours to respond before the paper published a brutal expose against him. And by the time Baldoni even had a chance to defend himself, the damage was already done. His reputation was shattered overnight. The argument was so airtight that even the judge had no choice but to agree. If Blake wanted to use the press to control the narrative, then Baldoni had every right to do the same. The judge flat out refused to take down Baldoni's website, ruling that both sides had equal rights to present their case to the public. And just like that, Blake lost another major battle. This wasn't just another legal setback, this was a catastrophe for her legal team. Their entire strategy was based on portraying Baldoni as a manipulative aggressor while painting Blake as the victim. They had relied on controlling the media, ensuring that Baldoni was the one being torn apart in the public eye. But now, that strategy had completely imploded. By trying to suppress Baldoni's voice, all they did was draw even more attention to his counterclaims. And now that his evidence was being publicly displayed for the world to see, people weren't just blindly supporting Blake anymore. Blake's legal team was scrambling to fix the damage, but it was already too late. Baldoni had won yet another round, and with each victory, he was gaining even more momentum. At this point, it wasn't just about what happened in court, it was about who was winning the battle for public perception. And right now, Baldoni was dominating. At this point, it was obvious that Blake's legal team was on the defensive. So, in a last-ditch effort to regain control, they tried to handpick who would be allowed to question her during her deposition. This was a huge red flag. Depositions are legally binding testimonies. Everything said can be used in court, and there's no room for PR spin. Blake's lawyers clearly didn't want her going head-to-head with Brian Fredman, a man known for relentlessly tearing apart witnesses on the stand, but the judge shut it down immediately. He ruled that Blake doesn't get to choose who questions her, she'll have to answer to whoever the court assigns. That means she's now completely exposed to direct, unfiltered, under-oath interrogation. No media tricks, no lawyer-approved statements, just cold, hard facts. And here's the real question. If Blake is so confident in her allegations, why is she so desperate to avoid being questioned? Just when Blake's legal team thought things couldn't possibly get any worse, the judge dropped a bombshell ruling that sent shockwaves through the courtroom. What was supposed to be two separate lawsuits, one filed by Blake against Baldoni for $250 million, and the other, Baldoni's $400 million countersuit, was now being merged into a single, massive case. This ruling changed everything. Merging the cases meant one thing. There would be no drawn-out legal tug-of-war, no stalling tactics, no opportunities for Blake's team to game the system. Instead of delaying and dragging the process out for years, Blake was now locked into a high-stakes trial that would decide everything in one go. And that was catastrophic for her, because up until now, Blake's team had been betting on time. They wanted this legal battle to stretch out for as long as possible, allowing them to exhaust Baldoni financially, emotionally, and legally. They wanted to push endless motions, file appeals, and use every legal loophole to make sure this case never actually made it to trial. But now, that plan was dead in the water. Instead of handling these lawsuits one at a time, the judge had made it crystal clear. This was going to be one single, massive, explosive trial. And unless they reached a settlement before then, this legal war would culminate in court in March 2026. Let's be real here. Blake is in serious trouble. She has already lost multiple key legal battles, and every single strategic move her team has made has backfired spectacularly. If this case actually makes it to trial, she won't be able to hide behind media spin or carefully crafted PR statements. She will be forced to sit in that courtroom facing hard-hitting, unfiltered questioning while every single piece of evidence Baldoni has collected against her is laid bare for the world to see. And let's be honest, there's no way to sugarcoat what that means for her. Because at this point, this isn't just about legal arguments anymore. This isn't just about who wins in court. This is about the battle for public opinion. And if there's one thing that's absolutely clear, it's that Baldoni is winning that battle. For months, Blake's team had carefully controlled the media narrative, ensuring that the public saw her as the innocent victim and Baldoni as the aggressor in this legal war. They used every trick in the book, selective leaks, strategic press interviews, and carefully worded statements to make sure that Baldoni was seen as the villain. But after today's ruling, that entire strategy is collapsing. Blake is no longer in control of the story. Now, everything she has fought to keep hidden, every questionable action, every inconsistency, every piece of evidence that contradicts her claims is about to be dragged into the spotlight. And the worst part? She has no way to stop it anymore. Because the judge's ruling sealed her fate, this case isn't going away quietly. It isn't going to be buried under years of legal delays. It's going to trial. And if Baldoni's track record in court so far is any indication, Blake is in for the fight of her life. For years, Blake Lively was untouchable in Hollywood. She had a flawless reputation, a devoted fan base, and the kind of career that most actors could only dream of. But now, that's all changing. Fans are divided. Some still support her, but many are starting to question her motives. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni is carefully controlling the narrative, positioning himself as the victim of false allegations and media manipulation. The fact that he launched a website dedicated to the case says it all. He isn't just defending himself, he's going on the attack. Blake tried to use the media to destroy him, but now he's using the internet to fight back. This case isn't just about reputations, it's about serious money. If Blake loses, she could be on the hook for $400 million, a number that's bigger than her and Ryan Reynolds' combined net worth. That means this isn't just her problem anymore, it's his too. If the court rules in Baldoni's favor, the financial fallout could cripple them. It's not just a lawsuit anymore. It's a financial time bomb that could wipe them out. At this point, Blake needs to ask herself a hard question. Is this fight even worth it? If she continues down this path, she's not just risking her money, she's risking her entire career. If she loses, she won't just be dealing with financial devastation. She'll be Hollywood poison. Studios will distance themselves. Directors will think twice before hiring her. Brands will quietly back away. She could try to fight this out in court, but based on how things are going, that might be the biggest mistake of her life. Because right now, Justin Baldoni isn't just winning in the courtroom, he's winning in the public eye.